Somalia's terrifying pirates have looted numerous ships. The world sees them as villains, but for the Somalians, they were heroes. Their own Robin Hood. In this scenario, the most difficult task is to reach the ship, tie the rope, and climb. This attempt isn't always successful. The gangsters from the local Somalian clans were given weapons in exchange for their permission to dump waste there. This is known as guns for waste. While some countries use religion and race to divide its citizens, the Somali dictators use clan identities to do this. The food and job shortage was so severe across the nation that, for these young boys, piracy became the only way to provide for their household and feed themselves. Hello friends, 8th of April 2009, a ship with the American flag was passing through the Indian Ocean. It was called the Maersk Alabama. It was going from Oman to Kenya, carrying some humanitarian aid cargo. When it was about 440 kilometers away from Somalia's coast, suddenly some lights popped up on the ship's radar. The ship's crew members scanned the area with their radar and saw a small boat moving towards the ship. The only thing they could think of then was, not again. Actually, over the past 24 hours, their ship was approached by similar boats twice, but they had managed to escape. But this time, as this boat came close, they got a message on the ship's radio. Normally in this situation, in order to escape such boats, the ships increased their speed. But the problem is that this works only when the pirates are far away. Because the top speed of such a huge ship cannot be more than 18 to 20 knots. And the Somali pirates on the speedboat can easily travel at a speed of more than 25 knots. Seeing the pirates' boat getting so close, the captain of this ship, Richard Phillips, set off the alarm. Everyone ran towards the ship's safe room. There weren't many options to defend themselves. There were some water hoses which could be fired at the pirates to prevent them from climbing the ship. But that isn't very effective. But soon they heard the sound of a ladder latching onto the ship. The first Somali pirate had climbed onto the ship. He was carrying an AK-47 rifle, and while firing it, he reached Captain Phillips. 14 of the 19 crew members of the ship had reached the safe room. 2 members hid, and Captain Phillips, with his 2 companions, remained on the bridge. The bridge is the command center of a ship from where the ship is operated. Usually, it is the highest part and located at the front of the ship. As soon as the pirates board the ship, the helmsman at the steering wheel started rocking the ship one way and the other. This caused the pirates' boat to sink and they couldn't escape. In total, 4 pirates successfully got on the ship. Their leader was the 18 years old Abdulwali Abdikadir Musi. These 4 surrounded Captain Phillips and his 2 crew members and pointed their guns at them. They told Captain Phillips that they weren't going to kill them, they just wanted money, telling them to stop the ship, and Captain Phillips shut down all the engines. The pirates asked about the other crew members and asked the captain to bring them. One of the crew members, Zahid Reza, told the pirates that until the rest of the crew were convinced that everything is fine, they won't come out. But the pirates' leader, Musi, wanted to see the rest of the crew, so Reza agreed to lead him to the rest of the crew. But he will need to leave his gun. Musi agreed, and the two started descending. As soon as they passed by the engine room, someone suddenly came out of the room and attacked Musi. This was the ship's chief engineer, Mike Perry. He was hiding there. He stabbed Musi in the hand and locked him up in the safe room with the rest of the crew. Now the leader of the pirates was captured by the crew members in the safe room. Seeing this, the other 3 pirates began to get desperate. They weren't sure about what they should do, but they still had Captain Phillips at gunpoint. After a lot of fighting, these pirates agreed to leave the ship on the condition that all the money carried on the ship needed to be handed over to them. And in exchange for Musi, they would take Captain Phillips with them. And only when Musi returned to the pirates would Captain Phillips be returned to the crew members. To bring this plan into action, a lifeboat was needed through which these pirates could go back. Because their boat had already sunk. But to get the lifeboat down, an electric winch is needed, and to operate it, they had to restart the engine. And for that, the entire crew was needed. So the crew members left the safe room with Musi. As per the deal, Musi was supposed to be returned to the pirates. And in exchange, the pirates were supposed to release Captain Phillips. As soon as Musi was handed over to the pirates, Phillips was on the lifeboat at this point, teaching the pirates how to sail the lifeboat. Taking advantage of this opportunity, these 4 pirates kidnapped Captain Phillips. They dropped the lifeboat on the sea and left. This story was marvelously presented in the 2013 film Captain Phillips. Such hijackings had been going on for many years, but those didn't get much coverage in the American news media. This incident changed this. For the first time, an American ship was hijacked. After that, the crew getting back the ship, but the captain being kidnapped by the pirates. This story had everything to draw people's attention. News channels all over the world were talking about this hijacking by the Somalian pirates. The biggest question here is, who were these Somali pirates? Why did so many people become pirates in Somalia? If you look at the map, you'll see that Somalia is the most northeastern country in Africa, with the Indian Ocean on its east and the Gulf of Eden on its north. It is separated from the Middle Eastern countries. Geopolitically, this is an important position because the Arab countries lie right in the middle of South Asia and Africa. About 20% of the global shipping trade is carried out through this area. Now, historically speaking, northern Somalia was ruled by the British, and southern Somalia was ruled by Italy. There ended in 1960, when Somalia became independent, and both parts were unified. 1st July 1960 is said to be the Independence Day of this unified nation. And 9 years later, the problems began. 15th October 1969, Somalia's President Abdurrashid Ali's bodyguards shoot him dead. After this, their army chief general led a military coup and declared himself to be the new president. And so, Somalia became a dictatorship. While some countries use religion and race to divide their citizens, Somalian dictators do use clans to divide them. In African countries, there are often multiple tribal clans. This is map of Somalian clans. There's clan-based discrimination in the country, leading to tension and violence. Eventually, this violence turned into a civil war. This civil war reached its peak on the 27th of January, 1991, when rival clans came together to expel President Said Barre from power. After this, Somalia's central government completely collapses. The clans fight each other to gain control of the country. At this point in time, northern Somalia chooses to be independent and declares itself to be a separate country called Somaliland. Even today, these two function as separate countries, but most of the other countries around the world don't recognize Somaliland as an independent country. During 1991, due to the civil war, starvation and disease, within a year, 350,000 people died in Somalia. This was the point where Somalian pirates emerged. Actually, the thing is, the sea near Somalia is a biodiverse and rich area in terms of marine life. You can see many beautiful coral reefs and many different types of fishes. In fact, the highest concentration of fishes is found on Somalia's coast, especially tuna, sardines, shrimps, and rays. With the increase in instability in the country, many foreign fishing vessels came here to take advantage of it. Foreigners started to illegally fish for tuna. According to a report by the United Nations in 2006, after the collapse of the central government, the Coast Guard of Somalia stopped working too. The Coast Guard protects the sea near the country's coast. But without a Coast Guard, Somalia's waters became free for all. Fishing vessels from all over the world began illegally taking away Somalia's resources. And the livelihood of Somalia's local fishermen was in danger. According to this UN report, every year, seafood worth around $300 million was being stolen from the Somali coastline. To fish more, these foreign vessels used steel-made drag fishing nets. In the video, you can see how they are dragged on the seafloor. This causes coral reefs to dislodge, and along with the fishes, it endangers the future livelihoods of the people living around Somalia's coasts. The poor Somali fishermen did not have any advanced technology to compete with these foreign ships. On top of that, when they complained about these foreign ships, these foreign fishermen would shoot at them with bullets and water cannons. But this was only one part of the problem. Along with this, foreign companies began dumping toxic industrial waste on the Somali coast. Since the 1980s, European companies have been dumping toxic elements like uranium, lead, cadmium, and mercury in northern Somalia. But when the government fell in 1991, this trend increased manifold. Earlier, the toxic waste used to be dumped only on the ground. But after 1991, the toxic industrial waste was dumped into the sea, Many Swiss and Italian companies are blamed for this. Apart from this, waste from German, French, and Italian nuclear power plants and hospitals were also dumping their wastes in Somalia's sea.